Okay. Hare Krishna. My Dandavat Pranam to all the leaders there at Baltimore. Thank you so much for inviting me to your Saturday Sangha. So, first of all, please accept my humble obeisances. Vancha kalpataru bhayascha kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाय, अपने अपने गुरुदेव की जाय. Thank you. Okay, so I request if you can mute everybody, the host can mute everybody so that there's no disturbance in between. Okay, Hare Krishna. So, today's topic is decoding karma. So, Pradyumna Prabhu had left it on me what topic I want to speak on. So, I was just actually during this lockdown, my younger son had joined a coding class. So, he's learning coding and recently he also successfully made some video game. So, he was just sharing that game with me. It was quite interesting. The game had a small fish, and the fish has to go to the mother fish. And in between, there are many obstacles. So if the fish goes right, then the shark eats the fish. If she goes left, then there are some shrubs and thorns. So it was very interesting. And what I was contemplating while I was playing that game, because it's my son who did the coding, so I was just thinking that this is all so predestined. If I'm going to go right, I'm going to be eaten by shark. I go left, I'm going to be... So, because he is the one who's coded it. So, I have very limited independence. The only thing I can do is I can decide where I want to go. But what happens when I decide to go somewhere is already predestined. So, now it's up to me. If I just take the right way and the right choices, then maybe I can just get the fish back to the mother fish. And that is how I came up with this topic, where I was thinking that this is how our life is, because Krishna has coded it completely. And it's just that if we make now the right choices, then we can just go back home, back to Godhead, back to our Father, Sri Krishna. So what we need to decode here is karma. Because I was just thinking that we are here and we are not with Krishna in the spiritual world, and that which is keeping us away from Krishna is karma. And this karma is very mysterious. So Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita 4.17, he says, Gahana karmano gati. It's so difficult, the intricacies of karma, to understand it. So if somebody can decode how this karma works, then they can go back home, back to Godhead. So that's how the topic of decoding karma came up. So before we get into the topic of what is karma, types of karma, and how do we get out of this cycle of karma, I would like to start with a short story. And this is going to be the only story of today's session. There is no other story today. It's going to be a little dry class. So the story goes like this. In an ancient temple in South India, Krishna is on his altar with his flute and a sweet smiling face. And he had a very nice relation with one of the devotees there who was a sweeper, sweeping the temple. So now once the sweeper goes to Krishna and says, I pity you sometime. So Krishna says, why is that? So he said, don't you get tired? You're all the time standing in one position. You don't even get to sit or sleep or take rest. Look at me. I work whole day. I clean the temple. But at the end, I do take rest. But you don't have any rest. You simply stand there. So then he said, my Lord, if you allow, I would like to serve you. So Krishna says, how is that? So he says, why not we just exchange places for a day and then you go and take rest? So Krishna says that can be done, provided the condition is that you don't do anything except just stand there in my place. Don't make any decisions. Don't do anything. The sweeper says, well, anyway, you are talking as if you do lot of things. What do? You anyway stand there, with your flute. I'll also do the same thing. So Krishna says, mind that condition, okay? Don't do anything. No, promise, I don't do anything. So then the day arrives and they change places. And now the sweeper is standing there like this. So then one very rich man comes to the temple. So he looks at the Lord and he's like praying. And then after praying, he just opens his money purse and takes out two crisp notes of 2,000 rupees, puts them in the hundi, and then he's just joining his hands in a prayerful mood. But then what happens, his money purse, which is full of, cash money, he just forgets it near the hundi. And he leaves. Now the second man comes there. He's a very poor man, just takes out few coins, a rupee coin and a 2 rupee coin, and puts it in the hundi. And in a very prayerful mood, he's telling the Lord, my Lord, we have nothing to eat at home, haven't eaten for several days. Oh, please bless us, please take care, please protect my family. And then when after the prayer is over, when he just opens his eyes, he sees there the money purse, the rich man's money purse. And then he just takes it as if it's Krishna's blessings. So he just looks here and there, doesn't find anybody claiming it. He takes the purse and walks away. And then after some time, a sailor walks in. The sailor is in a very prayerful mood, and he's been there for like a half an hour or so praying, I'm going for sailing today. I don't know when I'll be back. Please take care of my family. Please see that the ship sails well. The waves don't give us trouble. He's just praying and praying. And after some time, he sees the rich man walks there with the police, or he's all there with the policeman, and he's like, somebody in the temple must have taken my money purse, but the temple is empty. There is nobody except the sailor. So then he just says, oh, this man must have taken my money purse. Now the sailor is defending, I haven't touched, I don't know, I have no idea, but nobody's listening to him, and they just want to arrest him. Now at this time, our duplicate Bhagavan, who's become Krishna for the day, he says, enough is enough. I can't tolerate injustice. After all, I'm Bhagavan. So he immediately says, stop, everybody. He hasn't taken anything. Let me tell you who has taken. So then he clarifies. You see that poor man who had just gone, he must be on the way. He has taken the purse and the sailor has not taken. So now the things get sorted out. So that day evening after Sandhya Arati, when they again exchange places back, so Krishna is asking the sweeper, so how was your day? The sailor says, oh, it's tiring. I had to sort out so many issues. And Krishna is like, sort out issues? I guess we had an agreement that you won't do anything. He said, no, but I had to, there was an injustice happening. And then he explains the whole thing to Krishna. And then Krishna is like putting his hand on the head and like, why did you do that? And then the sweeper is like, what's wrong? And then Krishna says, look, I had planned it. Everything was my plan. So he says, how is your plan in this? So he says, look, the rich man who came there and offered me some service, he's supposed to die within a couple of days. He's going to meet an accident. Now, he hasn't done much good karma in this life. So I really wanted that his money to be utilized by that poor man who had no food to eat, so that he accumulates some good karma before he, goes and meets Chitragupta. And this poor man, if he hadn't gotten the money today, he and his family will die out of starvation. So I wanted to help him because he's been praying to me a couple of months now. So I wanted to give him some money and place him nicely. And now this sailor, I had made an arrangement that he gets arrested because if he would have go on sailing tonight, his ship is going to sink. So when he just puts this all out, oh, the sweeper is amazed. Oh my Lord, you have such intricate planning. Who goes where? What happens to whom? So why I said this story today is, we're talking about karma. And if we understand, Krishna has already coded everybody's life, what's going to happen, when, who, how. Yeah, we do have a certain independence where we can decide, but the consequences are predestined. Now, of course, once I put up this story, there'll be lots of questions coming up, and we will put them all in the parking lot. And now we'll enter to today's subject, where we'll talk about karma. So what is this decoding karma? What is this karma? So karma, of course, we all know basically means action. And Bhagavad Gita says there are three kinds of action. Or let's say we don't count akarma into this, because akarma means inactions. But karma is, again, you can say two types. One is vikarma, and one is karma. So karma means basically, in simple words, I'm just trying to make it as simple, like karma means good action, vikarma means bad action. So if somebody wants to remember, they can just remember the example of credit card and debit card. What's credit card? You just enjoy and then you pay later. And debit card, you pay first and then you enjoy later. So this is how it is, karma and vikarma, right? Vikarma is like you enjoy, that means you commit some sinful activity, but then you have to pay later. So this is like credit card, you will have to pay for it. Whatever you do, you have to pay for it. And karma is good activities, which is more like a debit card. You have paid for it already, you have done some good karma, and now you are enjoying the result. So this is about karma. And then what is law of karma? The science of karma, right? The law of karma. This is also something like the Newton's law. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's a universal law. Like we see in this world, everything has a cause and effect. And everything in this world is governed by some or the other law. Right from a microorganism to just about everything that happens in nature is governed by a particular law. And we as human beings are not exempted. We are governed by a particular law. And this law of karma states that whatever we do, there will be a effect. Like even in our day-to-day lives, right? If you just go to a doctor today and say, I have a stomach ache, the first thing the doctor is going to ask is, what did you eat last night? Now you may argue with the doctor, I'm saying that I have a stomach ache, why are you talking about last night? But sir, it's connected. What you ate last night will have the effect on your stomach. So this is very simple, right? Like today after my class, you go home, you find somebody in your family having a little injury somewhere. You will ask, oh, how did you cut your finger? What happened? Why the blood is coming out? So everything that happens in the world, we see the effect, but the effect has a cause. So it's as simple as that. It's a universal thing. Law of karma is very simple. Now, it's a general principle that every effect that we see now outwardly has some cause in the past, and every cause that we are initiating now will have an effect in future. So this is a general rule. Now the law of karma is very, 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 very accurate. It doesn't leave anybody. You can't escape from it, right? Just like you see the cows, sometime in a goshala, if there are lots of calves, thousands of calves. Srimad Bhagavatam gives this example. And if you just leave a cow, among the thousands of calves, the cow knows which is its calf, it can locate. So similarly, the law of karma, nobody can escape, right? Somebody may think nobody saw or nobody know I did it. But see, that is why you see hundreds and thousands of people are walking on the road every day, but there's only one person who will meet with accident, right? That means the law of karma will find out where the person is and give the result accordingly. So nobody escapes the law of karma. Nobody can escape from it, and it's not partial. It is so universal. Something like law of gravity, right? Law of gravity is not partial. If a small child goes up on the 14th floor and jumps, she will die for sure. She'll come down and die. But the law of gravity cannot discriminate or be partial, that she's after all a small girl, let me exempt her. Or if some small girl puts a hand in the fire, the law of karma can't exempt her, right? So similarly, the law just like law of gravity doesn't exempt anybody, the law of karma also doesn't exempt anybody. Everybody has to suffer their own doings, their own actions. Now, certain doubts may, come into our minds that if that is true, many a times we see in our life that there are some people who are visibly doing vikarma, bad activities, but we see that result is not bad. They're very happy. Have you seen that? Many are very prospering and flourishing. So questions may come in our mind that why is that so? If the result of bad activity is bad and result of good activity is good, then how come we see certain people doing bad activities but we say the result is good? So there we understand in the scriptures that every karma is like a seed sowing process. When you sow a seed, the next step is not harvesting. after sowing the seed, it grows bigger, and then the fruits come, and then you harvest, right? So similarly, whatever karma we do, today we sow, but it takes time to fructify, whether it's a good karma or whether it's a bad karma, right? It takes time. So see, like you see in the villages, they have this big metallic bins, silos. So suppose you have done your harvest for this year, you have your grains, you just go and put them in the silo. Now what happens, even if you have a harvest of a C grade grain, let's say it's not a very good quality grain, but what you will actually be consuming may be a good quality grain. Why? Because when you pour them in the silo, the harvest of this year will be above, but what comes down below will be the harvest of your previous years, right? So somebody at the outset may feel, how is this possible? Just in front of my eyes, I see that he has done a harvest of a bad grain, and now he's just enjoying. But what he's simply enjoying is something which he has done in the past, right? So this is what we see with everybody. Sometimes we come across people, okay, they may not be outrightly doing anything good, but then we see they're happy because they're just enjoying the previous karma. So that is why, when people say this in Hindi, khali haath aaye hai, khali haath jayenge, it is so untrue. Nobody comes with khali haath, and nobody comes with goes with khali haath. Everybody comes with baggage. Everybody who takes birth in this world actually comes with a baggage of karma. See, nobody opens their balance sheet on the on the accounts page in the month of April, which is plain. Everybody has something called brought forward. And at the end of the year, everybody has something called carried forward, right? So similarly, our life is also like that. We don't come empty hand. When we actually born, we just carrying with us loads of previous karmas. And then when we will be done with this life, we'll be actually carrying forward loads of karma with us, right? So whatever we are seeing, see, the thing is, as long as we are having good karma, we just enjoying it, and the moment that is over, then we have to again go with the results of the bad karma. Something like you see in the life of Napoleon Bonaparte, right? When he had a lot of stock of good karma, he was enjoying, he was conquering nations, but when his good karma got finished, then what happened? He was isolated and put like a helpless prisoner in some island, right? So the point is, the modern world, they think that our life is between 2 points, birth and death. We think that, I've seen this guy from childhood, and up till his death, I don't know how he had such bad death. He was such a nice person, he did such good things. Because the thing is, your vision is only from B to D, point B to D, that is birth to death. But the Vedic scriptures, they throw light that there is something which you have done before birth, and then there is something which is going to happen after death, right? So there is something before the point B, and there is something after the point D. So there is something which we are carrying forward, or we are bringing forward from our previous lives, right? So now somebody may say, well, this is understood, that whatever we are doing good, we get good result. Whatever bad, we get bad results. Sometimes we are carrying forward our bad or good from our previous life. But the whole question is, why do we even have to carry forward? Why can't we finish it in just one lifetime? Why so much heavy mathematical calculations? Why Krishna can't keep it simple? Whatever you do good, finish it up in this life. Whatever you do bad, finish it up in this life. Why all that carry forward business? Now the thing is, why is there this carry forward business? Is because sometimes some seeds take a lot of time to fructify. See, like even in our day-to-day lives, you see, you want to have a mango tree, it will take 4 or 5 years. You want to have a jackfruit tree, it takes 8 years. You want to grow rice, within 4 months you can grow, right? So some seeds, they fructify quicker and some delay, right? So that is why sometimes the result is delayed. See, even in our day-to-day life today, if I consume a lot of ice cream, I may get some cough and cold. It shows immediate result, right, within a day or so. But somebody is smoking or drinking, over the years they may have a liver problem, or they may have a lungs problem. They may not have immediately anything within a day or two. So sometimes the karmas are delayed, and sometimes there is a reason behind it. Like, there is this very famous story in Mahabharata about Dhritarashtra. When the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra were killed, he asked Lord Krishna, He said, how come, why I had to suffer so much agony? What did I do wrong? So then Krishna says, let me tell you about your past life. So then Krishna tells Dhritarashtra that, look, in your previous life, that is 50 life ago, you were a hunter. And once it so happened that while you were hunting, you saw a male bird on a tree. So you tried to shoot the bird, kill the bird, but the bird flew away. Now, out of anger, because you could not kill the bird, you ended up killing the 100 baby birds which were there in the nest. So the male bird had to actually watch in front of its eyes the 100 babies getting killed. So now, what is the result of your bad activity? You're supposed to get immediately the result. But the problem is, even to get 100 children, you will have to have that much good karma, right? To have 100 sons, that also sons. So that is why Krishna said that you had to wait for 50 lifetimes, where you had to accumulate piety, you had to do some pious activities, become eligible to have 100 sons. And then finally, when you took birth as Dhritarashtra, in front of you, all your 100 sons were killed at a time, and you had to suffer through this agony. So yes, there are sometimes delayed karma, but who decides whether you will get the result of your karma in this life or you'll get the result of your karma in next life? That Krishna decides. So there is no pakka, like pakka maths. This 2 plus 2 is 4. There's no such maths. Krishna decides. That's why Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita 4.17, he says, Gahana karma no gati. It's very difficult to understand the intricacies of karma. That is why an intelligent person should understand what is a forbidden action, what is an action, what is an inaction. They have to work according to it, understand it, develop a relationship with Krishna, and do activities in surrender to Krishna. And that is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, is what Prabhupada says in the purport of that sloka, right? So it's very important for everybody to understand the intricacies of this. Sometimes, though we understand this is such a basic topic, but then we complain, right? Why me? Why like this? Why this happened? Oh, he escaped. He also did it, but he didn't get that bad result. Why I suffered? But then there is a very famous saying in English, says that the mills of God grind slow, but grind very fine. Have you seen those traditional mills where they grind this wheat? And sometimes what happens when the grains are there, and you are grinding it, some of the grains, they'll jump here and there. Now, and what the grain thinks, I escaped. See, my friends, they're grinded and nothing happened to me. But what happens by the time the second round of grinding happens, even you are inside, right? This is what happens with us, right? Sometimes we think, oh, nothing happened. I did that, but nothing happened. Or I did this, nobody knows. But then it says mills of God, where the God is grinding, the karma result happens. Oh, they grind slow. Sometimes we think, he did so much bad, but nothing happened to him. Yeah, it'll happen. It is slow, but it grinds very finely. That means nobody can escape the law of karma. Everybody has to pass through it. Now somebody may question, but okay, we understand good karma, bad karma, past karma, all right. What about those who are ignorant? Let's say you don't know about law of karma. Then what happens to that kind of people? So scriptures say that ignorance is no excuse. Ignorance is no excuse. You have to get that knowledge. In fact, they say that ignorance is not an excuse, but ignorance is actually a consequence of your karma. Now, how is that? I'll explain to you. See, to educate ourselves in law of karma is our own responsibility. It's not God's responsibility, right? See, there's one man once. He was on a bike, and nice, he's on the crossroads and there are lots of traffic everywhere. So he's on full speed, and then there is red light. So he immediately stops. What do you do when there is red light? You just stop. So he stops. But what he observes is that though he stopped, the buffalo is going very nicely, The buffalo is not stopping, though there is red light. So he got motivated, when the buffalo can be so confident, why not me? So he also started driving in spite of seeing the red light. And immediately the traffic policeman, is like whistling and like stop, and writing cutting a coupon, ticket. So then he says, excuse me, sir, but, the buffalo was going, and why did you catch me? Why didn't you catch the buffalo? And the policeman is, because you are a bigger buffalo. Because you are a bigger buffalo, that's why I'm catching you. Because it's so stupid. The buffalo doesn't, know. So it's not that, it is not the responsibility of the government to give us training. We have to learn the traffic rules. If we say we are ignorant, that's why I cross, they fine you. So this is how the law of karma works also, right? If you go to a hotel today, let's say you go to a 5-star hotel, you start ordering things, 2 strawberry milkshakes, vegetable pizza with extra cheese. You just start ordering things, you eat things, and then when they bring you bill, and if you say, oh, I have to pay, is it? I didn't knew that. Now, so what they'll say? Oh, sorry, sir, you didn't knew. It's all right. You can go. No, they'll say, that's not our problem that you don't know you have to pay, but you have to pay, right? So somebody may say, I'm ignorant, but you are using Krishna's sunlight. You're using Krishna's water. You're using Krishna's air, and the bill will come, right? So if you don't follow the laws of material nature, the bill will come. So if somebody says, no, I'm ignorant, I don't know, so that is not an excuse. Well, ignorance is not an excuse, but ignorance is a consequence of a sin. That means, why are you even put in such a condition where you are ignorant? Because you must have done something in the past when you are put in a situation where you don't even have an opportunity to know and learn about Lord. See what happens in the jail. Even when you are in jail, you have an opportunity to know about morality. You have an opportunity to know about ethics, because even inside the jail, they send some reformers, Like we go in ISKCON, we have a prison ministry. Even in Vizag, Prabhuji goes regularly. We go to the jail, distribute Bhagavad Gita, give them some prasadam, speak from Gita. And many a times it so happens that in the jail, when they behave nicely, then their term is shortened, and then they can go back home early. But sometimes even in the jail, there are people who misbehave. And then they misbehave so badly that then they can't co-stay with the other prisoners. They are put in some dungeons, they're put in some black, dark rooms, because they are not able to adjust with the other prisoners. They are beating some prisoners. They are misbehaving. So what happens when they start misbehaving? They are isolated. And when they are isolated, then they have no chance to even get some communication from the reformers, because those Bhagavad Gita classes, lectures are done for general, all the prisoners. But those who are misbehaving, they don't come for the class. They are in their rooms only. So what has happened is, because in this Kali Yuga, we also misbehaved. That's why we are there in the Kali Yuga, right? I mean, if we were well behaved, we would have as well go back home, back to Gaura in Satya Yuga. We couldn't manage it, so then we were there in Treta. And we couldn't manage it in Treta Yuga, so we were there in Dwapar. And we couldn't manage in Dwapar, so we stayed back in Kali Yuga. That means we had a careless behavior or a carefree behavior somewhere. So now those who have that kind of a behavior, they are born in a situation where they don't even get the opportunity to know about this law of karma. They don't even get an opportunity to know about Lord Shri Krishna, right? But now, this is the consequence of doing sin. But the thing with Krishna is not only a judge, he's also a father, right? A judge is also father at home, right? So a judge may be very stern when he's inside the court with the prisoners. But when he's back home, he's a father. He has a heart of father. So Krishna is a judge, but Krishna is also father. And Krishna's mercy is more powerful than Krishna's justice. So what Krishna does is, even when we are on those dungeons, even when we are in this prison, in this dark room, he still sends some reformers. He still sends somebody right up to our prison cell. And that is why Krishna sent Srila Prabhupada in our life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He sent Srila Prabhupada in our life, who explained to us, look, this is our sambandha with Krishna. This is what you do. This is abhidaya. This is prayojana. This is law of karma. This is what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. In fact, not only did Krishna send Srila Prabhupada, Krishna comes himself, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He came himself to deliver everybody, right? In fact, it says in the scriptures that every single person, one time in their life, is given an opportunity by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to somehow or the other come in contact with Him, come in contact with His mercy, come in contact with His remembrance, right? But if somebody takes advantage of it, well and good. Otherwise, they just continue. See, the thing is, our life is not linear. It's not like cause, effect, and full stop. It's cyclic, right? We do some action, then there is effect, and then that effect again motivates us to initiate another action, and then again that action gives another consequence, and that again consequence. See, it'll just go on and on into this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, right? So, people like Srila Prabhupada, Krishna sends them to come into our life and stop this cyclic process and somehow drag us from this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Now, somebody will question, okay, this all seems good. Okay, bad karma, good karma, past karma, how Krishna sends his representatives, that's all right. But sometimes, we have this natural calamities where you see thousands of people dying, right? And sometimes we may question, how does law of karma work there? Individually we understand it works, but how does it work when there's, we had recently, we see so many earthquakes or tsunami, or at that place Badrinath Kedarnath, there was a big landslide and thousands of people, and many times people ask this question that they were all devotee minded, they went there to see the Lord, what exactly happened? So that also scriptures say that, yeah, mass calamity kills in thousands, but it does not kill even one person blindly. Every single person who gets killed in that mass killing, there is a big karmic accounts to be settled there. It's not that they just get, in a fluke or something like that, they get killed, right? Like I was just mentioning, the karmic accounts are very, 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 very accurate, right? They don't make a mistake. So that is why you see sometimes, I was, during this Latur earthquake, I was reading one article in a newspaper. They said that so many people died, but then because it took few days, right, to remove those slabs and, get people out. There was one house they went after a couple of days. And then when they were taking out all those slabs and remains, they saw a baby boy, just a couple of months old, and it survived. It was in the lap of the dead body of the mother, drinking the milk of the mother, and it survived. So though they went there, to the site after 3-4 days, the baby survived, but the mother died, right? Sometimes we see a situation in people's life. They were supposed to catch a flight, and they have a breakdown, the car doesn't work, and the flight, they just couldn't reach, they missed the flight. And after some time, they come to know the flight crashed. So see how it is all well planned. All those who were supposed to be killed are brought to one place, and then that's how the law of karma works. So it's so very accurate. It's so very accurate. Now, this topic brings us to two varieties of people, once they get into this topic. Either some people become completely like, they're karmavadis. They are like, I don't believe in, or previous karma, this. I just believe one thing, as you said, cause and effect. Work hard, get the result. And that's about it. And then there are some people who are like, even if we work hard, what is the use? Everything is predestined, right? So some people, they become like, they work very hard. But again, the problem is because the equation is not only cause is equal to effect. There's a lot of equations. That is why there is every possibility that they may get frustrated, right? Sometimes you see even the life of students. They work very hard, study very hard. But whatever they have studied never came in the question paper, and they failed. And there are some children who never worked hard, just studied a 4-5 question, and whatever they studied, that only came in the exam. So then we understand very easily that, it's not only cause is equal to effect, there is some other equations, right? Missing equations. So those who are karmavadis, they become like, sometimes frustrated because they're working hard, they're putting so much effort, but result is not in proportion. And then those who are daivavadis, they become very lazy. Somebody like Dhritarashtra. When Vidura approached Dhritarashtra that why aren't you stopping the war? Dhritarashtra just gave some lame reasons. What can I do? It's all predestined. This is what is supposed to happen. And Vidur said, no, you have a choice. You can't stop Duryodhan from doing this, right? So what do devotees do? We are neither karmavadis, we are neither daivavadis, we are mixture. That means we don't become lazy, we do action. And then after doing the action, we wait for the result or the consequence or the sanction, or we wait for the sanction of the Lord, right? For example, there is a farmer. Now, if the farmer can't say, what's the point of plowing the fields? I'm not sure if it's going to rain or not, and rain is in Lord's hand. No, the farmer plows the field and the farmer waits for the rain. And if it rains, he's very happy. Oh, it's Krishna's mercy. And if it doesn't rain, he says, that's my destiny. It didn't rain. It's not in my karma, right? So the devotees are the combination of Daivavada and Karmavada. Now, why are we talking about this law of karma? What way does it help us, right? What way it helps us? It helps us a lot. If everybody in this world has a knowledge of law of karma, then people will not be frustrated. There will be no depressions. There will be no suicides, right? Because people understand that you are not the sole and whole responsible for everything that is happening in your life. There's so many baggages that you have carried from the previous life. And then there's something which you have done in this life. And then ultimately everything is, of course, what does it say in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? 3.31.1. says what happens is karmana daiva netrena. Everything happens with the supreme sanction of the Lord. So what will happen if people start understanding the law of karma? Then the nepotism, corruption, everything will stop, right? Because it's very simple. People understand the punishment reward philosophy. Then they are afraid to do sinful activities. And what happens on the individual level? Now, once somebody has a knowledge of law of karma, then they can make right decisions. If you don't have the knowledge of law of karma, it is like you are in a dark room and you are blindfolded and you have been beaten by people on all sides. Now what happens? You are suffering. You don't know why is this person beating me, or why is that person beating me, or from where is the blow coming. Actually, you don't know because you are blindfolded, right? So if you have no knowledge, you're always frustrated. Why me? Why me? Why me? This question will keep coming, right? During the pressing times in life. Of course, during the good times, nobody asks, why me? Why did I get promotion? There were other people who deserved. But then when there are pressing times, we keep asking, why me, right? But when we know the law of karma, at least it's not that knowing of law of karma will relieve us from suffering, but at least we know what's our disease. At least we know where this punch is coming from, and then you can do something about it. Like, it is like if there is a patient who is in the hospital and doesn't even know why I'm suffering, it's so pathetic. But at least if the patient knows, yeah, I have this disease and I'm suffering because of this, I'm taking medicines and I'm trying to recover, and that's a good thing. So yeah, this is what our situation is. So as devotees, see, somebody may think, why are we even talking about this so very newcomer topic? The newcomer topic, everybody knows what's a law of karma. But the problem is, sometimes even when we are doing university maths, if we don't have the fundamentals correct, we may end up getting the whole sum wrong. Have you ever faced that problem? If you're doing some complex sum and maybe something minimum like 4 4s are 16, and maybe by mistake you wrote 4 4s are 18, what will happen? The whole sum goes wrong, right? Sometimes this happens to us because, you see, we just talking about, especially like, devotees are reading so much scriptures and we have so much knowledge and we have so much information. So we are talking about mana siksha, madhurya kadambini, bhava, anartha navritti, right? Or nishta, ruchi, what Rupa Goswami ji, so many things we are talking. But sometimes the basic fundamental, right? The basic fundamental may be somewhere just forgotten, because we just heard it, when in the beginning days, when we came in ISKCON, law of karmas, law of transmigration, soul goes from one body, and we feel, oh, that's all right, it's okay, I know about it. But it's not okay, because every day-to-day movement in our relationships, in our devotional service, in our life, we get stuck because of this basic fundamental thing, because we don't take things that, oh, this is my life, my karma. No, we always looking at the externals. I am in problem today because of this devotee. The festival didn't go well because of his problem. He didn't do it well. Even in relationships, my husband is not a good devotee. My wife is not a good devotee. She's not cooperative. I have a problem with my children. Or they don't listen to me. Or there are so many things. See, the thing is, everybody is carrying so much baggage. And if this is clear, we can always be joyful. And Krishna consciousness is a process of being joyful, right? But if we get our fundamentals wrong, then we may be talking so many things, but we're not joyful in Krishna consciousness because somewhere we just missed on the fundamental, right? See, many times parents, they'll say, Mataji, my son doesn't listen to me. My daughter doesn't, but she does that. And I just tell one thing, I have read, whenever we have some kind of a thought coming in our mind, so many thoughts come in our mind, lot of thoughts come in our mind. Not every thought, not every desire we make is fulfilled. You know why? Because there are lots of desires and we have very less time. So sometimes what happens, some desire, some thought, some action, activity that we wanted to perform, we aren't able to do it, or we aren't able to think about it. So we push it in our subconscious mind. See, the thing is, the mind has 7 layers. There is there's a conscious mind, there is subconscious mind, there is unconscious mind, there is superconscious mind, there is collective conscious mind. There are different stages. Now, the conscious mind with which we are dealing with people in our day-to-day life is only 1/7 of it, right? The rest of it, 6/7, we are not even aware of it. Now, whatever desires or actions that we have, it's going on in our mind. Sometimes what we do, because of the lack of space, in our hard disk, and we are very busy with some other activities going on right now in our life, so we push that desire into our subconscious mind. And then after some time, the data, the hard disk of the subconscious mind gets full. So the subconscious mind pushes to the unconscious mind, right? And it gets pushed. Now what happens meanwhile? Let's say we died. We left our body. So now what will happen? The body will be here. But now our mind, the subtle body, mind, ego, intelligence, that will go from this body to another body. And now whatever those unfulfilled desires, samskaras, thoughts will be carried now to our next life. Now, when they are carried with us to our next life, now they start troubling us. Shall I come out? Shall I come out? Because you pushed me inside, right? Now can I come out? Are you free? Can I come out? It will keep coming. That is why you see devotees, they complain. I have been chanting so many years now, right? But still this desire is disturbing me. Still that desire is disturbing me, because you were carrying it from long time, and they're waiting to come out, and they're knocking on you, can I come out? Can I come out? You suppress me for a long time now. So when we understand all this, then we are peaceful. Okay. That's the previous samskara. It'll take some time, right? It'll take some time. It is there, and then slowly by chanting and by taking shelter, reading, it is a process, and it'll go. One doesn't have to become agitated. Oh, why is it not happening? Oh, why my daughter doesn't listen? She's born in the temple, brought up among devotees, but she doesn't have inclination. Arey Baba, there is some previous samskaras that she's carrying. It won't go away in one day. So much data is there in her hard drive, right? So that is why to discuss this very, very basic topic of karma and how it works is so very important. Because once we are very clear about it, our relationships with people will become so nice, because we will stop blaming. We'll stop blaming the brush and the color if our painting doesn't happen well. Because now we know, right? What Jiva Goswami says. All these good people in this world are forced to behave badly with me because of my karma, right? So when these things become clear, you don't do Vaishnava Prad, right? You don't do Vaishnava Prad. You will stop criticizing devotees. And if you stop doing Vaishnava Prad, then we can run like a Rajdhani Express, because the process is very simple. Take Krishna Prasad, chant Hare Krishna, read, that's about it. Just do some Shravanam, Kirtanam, and you're happy. Though the process is simple, it's taking a lot of time, because meanwhile we are making so many aparadhas, right? And why are we making aparadhas? Because of the external situations that we are put into. And now once we have a clear understanding of these situations, then we'll just stop blaming others, right? You see, when I was young in my college days, I had once had an opportunity to do this, this radio jockey kind of, So as a young student, we were a group of girls, and we had an opportunity to host a program. And I'll tell you, once it so happened that we went there for recording. It was a live show. And just before us, somebody else had the show in the same frequency. So that show was terrible. Okay. So like when we were about to start our program, people were giving feedbacks, and the person who did the show before us just left. So they were giving us feedbacks, or the same matter, it's repetition, or it was like this, and we were like, okay, all right. But but it was not our mistake. You got my point? If we didn't do that, that show was by somebody else, but it's on the same frequency. So now we felt, oh, that's not fair. What happened to us? But I think that's what happens to us in our lives too. See, we are on the same frequency. That means the soul is same. It's only thing is we changed bodies, right? And now we feel it's so unfair. Oh, they're behaving with me like this. It's so unfair. It's not unfair. It's same frequency. You understand? You've just changed your clothes. You just change your dress, but you are the same person. So definitely you'll have to take a feedback. You got my point, right? So let's say you have come for my class today, right? All of you. Now, let's see this Mataji, she lost her purse in the class. Sometimes it happens. The purse has this habit of just disappearing in thin air sometimes, right? So imagine and then she has to go back home now. So she'll ask, Prabhu, can you give me 500 rupees? So he said, definitely, Mataji, take 500. Now, what will you expect when she comes next Sunday? She'll return back, next comes for the next Saturday class. Now, imagine you just next Saturday when she comes, and you just go and ask her, Mataji, you remember you had taken 500 from me? Now she'll be like, why is this Prabhu being so rude to me? Why is he trying to take money from him? When did I take money from him? Right? Now you may argue, Mataji, don't you remember? See, last Saturday you came, you were wearing green color. Now, I never wore a green color sari. I don't remember. When did I take money from you? Right? And then she'll keep thinking, how come this person is so rude to me? How come he's trying to take money from me? How come he's misbehaving? But the whole point is she just changed the dress, but she's the same person and she has to give back the money. Is it not? So sometimes don't you feel? Sometimes when people behave in certain way, you are like, why is this person behaving like this with me? I'm so nice to him, but you were not nice to him. There's something, right? You understand? But when you understand this law of karma, then what will happen? Even when somebody behaves badly with you, you will rejoice because you will think, okay, cycle completed. I must have been bad to him and now he's bad to me. All right, cycle completed. So you rejoice. Okay, I'm done with it, right? I'm done with it. But if you are not aware of it, then you just, why? You'll keep, So that is why. See, it's not that by knowing the law of karma, your suffering can reduce. But the only thing is, you can stop creating more causes. You understand? Like, see, I said every action that you do is like a seed sowing process. So now at least you can be very sure or very smart to what kind of seed that you are sowing, because whatever seed sowing you do, definitely it will fructify. And once it fructifies, whether it's a thorny bush or a sweet fruit, you have to accept it. You can't complain, I won't eat it. So what at least we can do now is, at least we can change our reactions to situations. You got my point? See, because the whole thing is, everybody around us basically is just a wall. And what they're simply doing is, whatever we have been throwing, what happens in a wall? Does wall react? Wall doesn't react. If there is a wall, you just throw a ball on it, what happens? Whatever ball you throw, the same ball comes back to you. But after this, when the ball comes back to you, if you start complaining, why is a black ball coming on me? Now that is stupid, because you threw a black ball and only black ball is going to come back. You understand? Now, somebody may question, but what about I haven't thrown any ball? It may be a new action generated by somebody trying to throw a black ball on me. Then what do? Then throw a white ball back, because irrespective of what that person is throwing on you, whatever you are throwing is going to reap effects for you in future. Are you able to understand, or am I confusing you? See, this is a pen. I throw it on you. What are you going to do? Yeah? Yeah, you can throw it back. Yeah, very good. Good shot. I threw a pen on you and what did you do? Threw it back on me. Now I can complain. How dare you throw this pen on me? It would have hurt my eye. Why did you do that? No, I have a choice here. I did it. You did that to me. I have a choice here. Now when you throw a pen on me this time, I won't throw a pen on you. I'll throw a flower on you. Now what will happen? I just created a good karma. Now what will happen next? What will you do? You will simply throw the flower? back to so simple. What do you want? Just throw that, right? What do you want? What do you want from people? Just do that, right? You just throw that and you'll get that back. So when you understand that law of karma, then things become simple, right? Then you start accepting, and acceptance is so important, right? You start accepting situations, you start accepting people, right? See, I remember, a couple of years ago, we had gone to this Prabhashetra, Prabhashetra, and there I was giving a class there. So when we went there a couple of years back, in that place, they were constructing a temple, at that place. And there was a carpenter working and some mason working. So it was making a lot of noise. But we understood if the class has to go on, we have to bear that noise, because there was no other choice and there was no other, it was raining. It was wet outside also. So what happened? Because we accepted that noise, we were all very happy and the class was going on and we accepted that, tuck, tuck, tuck going on. But after some time, somebody's cell phone rang and that got everybody irritated. Why? Because that sound was accepted. This was unexpected. Are you able to understand? Now, if it's unexpected and not accepted, then it irritates us, right? But when you get these things right, and you just accept situations and people and event in life, when you have this this thing very clear in your life, right? And then if you accept it, then you're peaceful, right? See, I'll give you one example. Let's say you are driving a car. Okay. Now, what do you do in the car? You have this rear mirror in the car, right? Now, what do you see in that rear mirror? Yeah, the cars which are going in, driving behind you. Now, I'll tell you, sometimes the car behind you, the driver is driving in such a way that you can't exactly see him in your rear mirror. It happens sometimes. So what do you do? I'm asking you. When it happens, do you stop your car and go and bash up that driver? Can't you drive properly? I'm not able to see your car in the rear mirror. Do you do that? No, how can you do that, Mataji? You have to simply adjust your rear mirror so that you can see him. You can't tell him drive properly. I'm not able to see you. You just adjust. Why can't we just do that with people around us, right? We always try to change others. Why can't you do this way? Why can't you do, because we don't understand the law of karma. We don't understand they're carrying things from the previous life. We don't understand that. And we try to change others, right? So simple philosophy, CAR, change the changeable, accept the unchangeable. Yeah, C for change the changeable. A for accept the change the changeable. What Krishna did with Arjun. Arjun said, I don't want to fight. Krishna convinced him. So he changed the changeable. A is accept the unchangeable. Duryodhana, Krishna gave a proposal. Let's not have a war. Did Duryodhana accept? He didn't accept. What did Krishna do? Fine, I accept you. Accept the unchangeable. And remove yourself from those situations which are not conducive. It's like, see, sometimes you are, you'll just make so many aparads, right? When you are in certain situation, you may just make offenses to somebody, you may hurt somebody. Don't put yourself in that kind of a situation. As soon as you see things are going wrong, just, beg forgiveness and just move out from that situation. Just don't commit any aparadas, neither mentally, neither verbally, neither physically. You just follow these three things in your life. CAR, right? So when the law of, it's, if we understand this law of karma, and if we understand that everything is predestined, if we understand that there's so many baggages from previous life, if we understand all these things, then the life will become like a cricket match. And then then you will be like, okay, let that person throw a ball on me and I'm going to give a 6 this time. Because now you know the philosophy. You're not going to go into the blame game, right? And then what will happen? Instead of asking, why me, you will say, try me. That's all right. I'm connected to Krishna. I know why this is happening. And I'm going to be sama. I'm going to be sama, right? What Krishna says in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yeah? He gives the 36 qualities of a devotee, what he likes, and in that one quality he says, sama, a devotee is supposed to be equal in all situations. A devotee is supposed to be tolerant, right? So what we can do, once we understand how this law of karma works, and once we understand what is karma, what is vikarma, we can make the right choices, right? And not only that, then we can do something which is called akarma. So what is akarma? Devotional activities. That which doesn't put us in any kind of a bondage. So, and then we go into akarma, right? We surrender to Krishna, right? Once we understand this, then we surrender to Krishna. What Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraj. Aham Tvam Sarva Papebho Mokshayishyami Masuchaha. So when we surrender to Krishna, then He takes away the result of all our activities, whether good or bad, all the activities, and He gives us Himself. Now, I will end here with a very important last segment. Now the question will be, as a devotee, if we are surrendering to Krishna and Krishna takes away aham tvam sarva papebhyo, takes away all our papa, then why are devotees suffering? Yeah, the question will come, right? Why do devotees suffer? Because even the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it says, Phalam, Kutam, Bijam, whatever stage the seed of sin is there, if somebody takes up to devotional service, then there is no result. But apparently we see that the devotees are also suffering. But the Vaishnava Acharya says that Krishna is talking about protecting the soul, he's talking about a higher protection, and whatever suffering we see the devotees are getting is a very sample suffering, because Krishna, if he's already reduced the suffering, like Prabhupada said once while he was cooking, he said, hand supposed to be cut but only finger has got cut. Krishna is so merciful, so he minimizes the suffering, and let's say if he doesn't give even that sample suffering, then we'll be settled in this world. It's a comfortable place, right? So the suffering that sometimes you see in devotees' life is, Krishna just wants to remind them that don't settle here. You have to come back. I remember my elder son. He's 20 now. But when he was very young, I think he was maybe like 1 year old maybe. He had this habit of drinking milk from that bottle. And after some time, you have to stop it, because you have to start feeding, some Cerelac, some roti, chapati. But he was so much attached to that, taking the milk from the bottle. Now, I didn't know what to do. So then my mother, she gave me a good idea. She said, you get those toy cockroaches, So I just put the toy cockroach inside his bottle. So the next time he asked the bottle, I said, look, there's some insect inside. And he was like, I don't want that bottle anymore. So now, am I a cruel mother? No, I'm not, actually. So I did that to him, right? But then I did it because I wanted him to eat little, something more that is more nutritious. So that is what Krishna does. Apparently, to our naked eye, it may seem how unfair, but it's not unfair, right? Like the other day, somebody was asking, how unfair was Krishna with Bali Maharaj? Bali Maharaj was a pure devotee, and why did Krishna do that? So we were just discussing that. If this is called being unfair, where Krishna takes away some very small little things from you and gives himself to you, then that unfairness of Krishna is so sweet. Is it not, right? Imagine if you take away, a few chocolates from your child's hand, and then you write your whole property on the name of your child. So that cheating is such a sweet cheating, right? Because child doesn't understand what the value the 2 chocolates has, but now the whole property of the father is on the name of the child. So this is what Krishna did with Bali Maharaj. Maybe just took some, few steps, but he gave himself to Bali Maharaj, right? We know that he is still with Bali Maharaj and serving him like his guard, right? So yeah, Krishna is not unfair, right? So what we have to do as devotees is, as devotees also, we may also suffer our previous karma and all, but what are we supposed to do is tolerate, right? This sloka in Bhagavatam is one of my favorite sloka. It comes in the 10th canto, and it comes as a part of Brahma Stuti, the 14th chapter, sloka number 8, where Brahma says, Tatte nukampa susamikshmano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. So he says that Tatte nukampa susamikshmano and bhunjano evatma kritam vipakam, and hridvag vapu yabi vidadham namaste. And then he says that jive tu yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. So what it means is, Brahma is saying that if somebody, just tolerates whatever is the result of their previous life, the result of their karma which they have done in previous life, very patiently, all the while waiting for your anukampa, your mercy, my Lord, your compassion, my Lord, then, and hrid va yeah, vapu bhi means with the heart, with their words, with their body. Vidadhan namaste. They offer you obeisances. Then what will happen? Daya bhag. He will become a rightful candidate for your kripa, your mercy. And in that sloka commentary, Prabhupada quotes Sridhar Swami. When Sridhar Swami is saying that just like a legitimate son, he doesn't have to do anything. He just needs to stay alive. And what will happen? The property of the father will come to him naturally. For that, he doesn't have to go through any process. He simply has to stay alive. Similarly, the devotees simply need to stay alive in Krishna consciousness. That's about it. Just be there. And then Krishna's mercy will definitely come on us. That means one needs to tolerate whatever the previous karma that we have done. Definitely the results are going to come. So one needs to simply tolerate. So I feel this is the essence of today's class, that yes, the law of karma works this way and that way, but the essence is we understand that whatever good or bad result we are getting is because of our previous karma. We simply tolerate it, surrender to Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, and try and perform more devotional activities. Of course, and one such opportunity to perform a karma is Purushottam Mas. Purushottam month is coming, I think it's starting on September 18th. So where you can do lots of, accumulate lots of piety, because it is mentioned in the Padma Puran that somebody who follows Purushottam Mas, whatever karma they have accumulated in the previous life, that also gets vanquished, gets vanished. So this is one good opportunity, right? So there, I was hearing that one Vaishnava Acharya was saying that it's called malamas. Basically, mala means stool, but actually Vaishnavas take it other way around. They say it is called malamas because it takes away all the mala that we have accumulated in our previous life, and it cleans us. So this is one opportunity, upcoming opportunity for the devotees, where they can come out of this whatever we have, we have accumulated in our warehouse, so much karma that we have accumulated from a previous life. So warehouse cleaning time, Damodar month, Purushottam month, these are like those times where you can just clean up, whatever you have accumulated, previous unwanted things, and then start afresh with a new page on your, on your balance sheet, on your accounts, right? So with this, I end it here. I just hope I didn't go over time. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Okay, so I'll repeat your questions for the others' convenience. So Mataji is asking that you said that if somebody throws a pen, okay, you throw a flower back, but is it okay if you don't throw a flower back and you just don't give any reaction? So is that also a bad karma? No, it's not, but I'll tell you something. If you're a businessman, you want to make profit, right? In every situation, right? So if you don't throw back anything, okay, it's no profit, no loss. But if somebody is bad to you and then you are nice, you're actually making mucho profit, making a lot of profit, and any sharp businessman would do it. Why shouldn't we take advantage? Of course, I know it's hard, but if you can do that, see, it's an opportunity, because see what is happening when you are being nice to the person. Okay, now I understand the second part of your question. You said, even if I am nice to that person, I know that person is not going to be nice to me. So what is the point? Let me ask you one question. Okay, and since I don't want to disturb your muting, unmuting process, I'll ask you. Did you ever go to a bank? You went. Did you deposit money? You did. Did you withdraw money? You did. I'll ask you a question. When you deposited, you must have deposited, let's say, in the 2,000 rupees notes or something, let's say. Now, when you go for withdrawing, do they give you the same notes which you have deposited, or they give you any note? I'm just asking you a question. Sure, they don't give you the same notes. So do you argue with the bank manager that I gave, my note number is this, but now you are giving me this? Do you argue with him? Why you don't argue? Because you're saying, Mataji, what's the point? I wanted to withdraw 10,000, I got my 10,000. Whether he gives me my notes or he gives me somebody else's note, it doesn't make any difference to you. Does it make difference to you? No. Now, my question is, when we are being nice to somebody, oh, we are making a lot of good deposits, right? Now, if that person is not being nice to me and is not giving back my money, that's not my problem. I may get it from somebody else, the good back. I may get it from person A, I'll get from person B. I may not get from that person. That's all right. So, why should I stop depositing money? You understand? Even if I'm nice to you, I'm depositing. What is simply happening is we are all very individual in this world. I have nothing to do with you, you have nothing to do with me. When I'm doing nice to you, what I'm simply doing is I'm being nice to myself. Because every time that I'm being nice to you, I'm just making deposits. I'm making deposits. Now, when I get my money back, I may not get in the same form. Though I made a deposit with you, you may not be the one who is going to be nice to me. But I'll get it from somebody else. What's my problem from wherever I get, in whatever note I get? But I'm going to get back what I deposit. So why shouldn't I deposit is my question. Did you get my point? So if we are intelligent, we'll deposit. क्या फर्क पड़ता है किससे आएगा, लेकिन आएगा जरूर, because the karmic account is very 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 accurate. If you have done something good, it doesn't go in vain. It has to come back. Whatever you are emitting will come back. Which direction it will come back, that we don't know, and who cares? जब तक आता है आने दो. From which direction it comes, who cares? Did you get my point, Mataji? I hope my answer helps you. Okay, I have another question here by Sweta Manjiri Mataji. She says, how can we increase our tolerance? How can we increase our tolerance? Yeah, that's the whole class about today is, why do you, see, I'll tell you, why do we even feel that we are tolerating? If we feel there is some injustice done, when will I use the word tolerance? When I feel that there was no justice done to me, that means I'm tolerating, right? But when you understand the law of karma, then you understand there is no injustice. Whatever this person or that person or this person is doing is simply just giving back what I must have given to them in some life, right? So when we are practically thinking on that basis all the time, then there is no question of tolerance. In fact, we'll start becoming grateful. We'll becoming grateful to the person. That it's okay, at least I'm done with my cycle. Did you get my point? I'm done with this whole process, right? I'm finished. See, this is like this. After day comes night, and after night comes day. You can't stop the sun, you can't stop the moon, right? So whatever happens in our life, sometimes very kind of a situations which we are not happy with, we should understand that when we are going through this situation, we are actually getting done with our the deposits, sinful deposits, or the fruits of our sinful activity. So we should be happy, because every time the check is withdrawn, it will be done, and one fine day the balance will become zero, right? So be in that consciousness, and then you won't have that feeling of that tolerance feeling comes only when we feel that this person is responsible for my I'm put into this situation because of this person or because of that. But when you're always conscious about it, that it's my karma, like I said, I don't know if you joined the lecture from the beginning, I was saying, Jiva Goswami says that everybody in this world is very nice. All these nice people are forced to behave badly with me because of my karma. Shall I give you one practical tip? I just hope but I'm going over time. I'll tell you something. It's very long, but you know what you have to do? Every time that you are going somewhere, you are walking, whatever you are doing, always remember it is a tactic what I do. It may not be applicable to everybody. Since you asked me some practical tip, you should always think that there's somebody else also walking with you, okay? And every time that somebody is praising you, you just look at that person. Oh, you got good praises today. Wow. And if every time somebody is bad to you, look, you got, now who is that person, good or bad? You know what that person is made up of, whom you are walking and being with you all the time? That is your results of your good and bad activities. You got my point? And that is always walking with you. So every time somebody is nice to you, you understand. They're not nice to you because, Oh, that means the good karma has arisen, just like the waves in the ocean. What happens to the waves? They just come, and then after some time they just go back. They don't stay. Do they stay? Like that in our life, sometime the wave of our good activity comes, what we must have done previously good, and everybody becomes so nice to us. Everybody's praising us. Everybody's so sweet to us. Then that wave goes back, and then the other wave comes, we must have done something bad, and now we see suddenly everybody's misunderstanding me. I was trying to do something good. I was trying to boil the milk. I was just trying to talk to him. Everything is going wrong. Now, it's not the outside situation. It's your bad karma has arisen, so now things will go wrong. But don't worry, that doesn't stay for long. It'll go back, and then another wave will come. So it's a continuous process. And if you are conscious all the time, whether in sukha or dukha, in sukha also, don't take it on you. Sometimes people praise you and put you somewhere. You're like, it's not me. Some good karma has arisen, and people have started become very sweet to me. And if it's bad, also take it that way. That helps me. I don't know how much it can help you, but I just wanted to share what I do, and that helps. Yeah, that helps. I just hope it helps. My answer helps you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay, there's so many questions. I don't know if I can answer all of them. Just one more. I would, just one more, because type it, so I'll read it once. But what I understand, your first question is about tolerance. You said that suppose you're gonna lose your loved ones during this pandemic situation, so how do you tolerate it? Yeah, so sometimes, I'm not saying that you don't get emotional. Yeah, you feel bad if you lose your loved ones, but when you have that knowledge, and not only knowledge about law of karma, when as devotees we understand that we are all temporary in this world, and it's not only about losing your loved ones, even we ourselves don't know how long we are here, right? It's a part of our existence in material world. Nobody is permanent. We're not sure how long we ourselves are going to be here. So that is why we have to try and develop a strong relationship with Krishna. Because you see, this is something like, many times Prabhupada gives this example, right? That a girl, when she's getting married, then she cries because she's going to leave her parents. But at the same time, she's happy because she's going to go to her husband, and she's attached to her husband. She has a relationship with husband, and she's happy. So this is what is going to happen with all of us, not only our loved ones, but we'll have to leave this material world. But before that situation comes in our life, if we have developed a strong relationship with Krishna, then we will be waiting. We'll be waiting for that moment. We have to be all well prepared. And regarding our emotions, there will be emotions when we are humans. We have lots of love, care, affection, and all these qualities we have gotten from Krishna. So definitely when we are associating with some people for long time now, and now they will disappear from our eyes, yes, we're going to feel bad about it. So you can cry, you can feel bad about it. There's no problem. But then you have to continue your life. That's how it is. Like Yudhishthir Maharaj said, that the greatest amazing thing about this world is, even when we see others are dying, we don't understand that we are also going to be put into such situation very soon. Maybe somebody is going a little sooner, we may go later, but that's going to happen. And as devotees, we are not dry people. We have emotions. Like I remember, one reporter in Mauritius had asked Prabhupada that how come when Abhimanyu died, Arjun was crying, even though Krishna told the whole Bhagavad Gita to Arjun. And then Prabhupada replied so nicely. He said, Arjun cried, he has emotion, he has a soft heart, but what did he do next day? That was important. He didn't stop fighting, he just went about the business as usual. So as devotees, we do feel bad when we lose the association of our loved ones, devotees, special devotees in our life. We feel bad about it. But we don't have a choice. What we can do is we can pray for them, and we can do something for them so that they have a beautiful next life. So if you can somehow give them some oral or audio association, chant for them, read for them. If that is not possible due to the corona situation, we can pray for them. See, if we genuinely love somebody, then we're supposed to pray for that person. See, when you love somebody and you just want that the person should be physically present in front of you, then that is not love, that is lust, right? When you just want to make your senses happy, I want that person should be alive because I'm getting some reciprocation from that person, or that person is source of my happiness, source of my shelter, source of my protection, and that is why I want that person, then that is being selfish. That's not love, that is lust. If we really love somebody, then it's not about that person being present in front of us or not. What is the next destination of that person? If you really love, see, in this world we have to have a relationship between us, like soul relation, right? Not the relationship on the bodily platform. So if you really love the soul of that loved ones of yours, just pray and chant. If that person is devotee, well and good. He's also going to pray for himself, and then you pray too. And if he's not, then pray all the more, chant some extra rounds, and that I call is a real love. When you're praying to Krishna for that loved one, who's just going to disappear in front of your eyes, oh Krishna, see that he gets good destination, you pray for him, do extra rounds, give some charity on his name. I think that what I call is love. That's real love. But if you just want that the person should somehow be in front of me, then that's lust. Some way or the other, we just enjoying our senses. I just hope I didn't hurt you by this answer. Thank you. ઓકે તો ઓલ રાઈટ, તો તમે ઓકે, તો ગુજરાતીમાં જવાબ આપું કે ઇંગ્લિશમાં બોલો? Okay, so Mataji is asking that, yeah, we understand, that things are happening because of our karma, but at that particular moment, we may just lose, focus on that, and then we may just react. Or how are we supposed to control ourselves or be conscious of it every moment? Now, for that, my answer is practice makes a man perfect. It doesn't happen, and that's why our whole life is that process. This is what we are trying to do whole life, that when the pressing situation comes in our life, we should be prepared. So for that, we have to practice whole life, and then when the pressing situation actually comes, then we'll be able to strongly face it. So we have to practice it. સો આપણા રસોડામાં આપણે હળદર ને મીઠું ને ધાણા જીરું ને આપણે વધારે વાપરતા હોઈએ છીએ, તો શું થાય છે, એ મસાલા એકદમ આપણી સામને મૂકેલા હોય, અને જે મસાલા આપણે ન વાપરતા હોય ધીરે ધીરે પાછળ વયા જાય. પછી થોડા દિવસ પછી એમ થાય ને, આપણને થાય કે અરે ગરમ મસાલો નથી, પછી આપણે માર્કેટમાં જઈને લઈ આવીએ, પછી આપણને ખબર પડે અરે ગરમ મસાલો તો હતો પણ પાછળ વયો ગયો, બિકોઝ આપણે વાપરતા નથી. એવી રીતે આપણને શું થાય છે, ઘણીવાર આપણા લાઈફમાં આપણે ફિલોસોફી અગર રેગ્યુલરલી નથી સાંભળતા, પણ આપણે કોઈક વાર પહેલાં ક્લાસમાં સાંભળેલું, તો પછી ધીરે ધીરે એ પાછળ વયું જાય, અને પછી જ્યારે આપણી સિચ્યુએશન લાઈફમાં પ્રેસિંગ સિચ્યુએશન આવે ત્યારે આપણે ભૂલી જ જઈએ કે આપણી પાસે આ નોલેજ હતી. એટલે આપણે એને રેગ્યુલરલી વાપરવાનું. ઓકે, સો ઇફ યુ આર રેગ્યુલરલી હિયરિંગ, then it becomes a practice, and then when actually I have a very beautiful story about it, but it's too late, which would have really give you a, but yeah, some other time I will tell you this story, or you can always keep in touch with me personally, or you can ask me, can you just put my email address in the chat? So if anybody has any spiritual questions, they can put it. But I don't answer immediately. It'll take time, 10-15 days, and I'll give an audio answer for whatever questions put in my email. It's nitaisevini@gmail.com. There's just no full stop spelling. It's just nitaisevini. nitaisevini@gmail.com, because there's a lot of questions here in the chat, and I would like to answer them, but the time is very less. So yeah, if you keep practicing, then yeah, when the pressing situation comes in your life, you'll be able to manage it. He says, I'll tell you one last story, and then I'll stop it here. In my childhood, I had heard this story. Mother Teresa. I think it's a famous story. You all must have heard this. How she used to go for raising funds, right? And then she did go to a rich man's place for fund. Now this man was very upset. Why is this lady coming again and again? So he spitted on her. So the moment he spitted, she just took the spit in her hand and she said, "Thank you. This I'll keep for myself. Now what for my children? For my orphan children, what will you give for them?" And this man was amazed by her tolerance, no reaction. She simply said, "This I'll keep for me. What about for my children?" And then and just by the mere, her behavior, he immediately wrote a big check, so like that, that means she was so conscious, right? 24 hours, like those antennas, our antennas of tolerance has to be on, on mode all the time, they need to be on, right? So that's about it. That's it. Where's the host? He needs to officially end the meeting. Hi Krishna. Hi Krishna. Haribol. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
सब कृष्णा 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 लगे सब कृष्ण